Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. And today I'm going to talk about a bunch of IMPRINT releases, relatively recent IMPRINT releases, several box sets. I've got 3 box sets to talk about and some standalone titles as well. So let's get into this with the Film Noir Essential Film Noir Collection 5. And this one consists of 4 films that I personally was not familiar with, honestly. So this is sort of a lot of new stuff to me in terms of the movies. So let's break this open. You have your usual box top, a lovely IMPRINT box design. So let's start with okay. We'll start with The Island of Doomed Men. This one has Peter Lorre headlining. It's from 1940. I find it interesting that it is directed by Charles Barton, who is a director that I associate more with comedies. Like, he did a ton of Abbott and Costello movies. Meet Frankenstein, Meet the Killer Boris Karloff, just a bunch. Buck Privates Come Home, Time of Their Lives. And I think, he's a really interesting director. So this is a little bit of a different thing for him. The tagline is "There's no escape from his fiend's paradise of torture." And it's about an undercover agent wrongly punished for murder and being paroled to a remote island with a diamond mine slave labor run by a sadistic foreigner. And so you have Peter Lorre, Rochelle Hudson, Robert Wilcox, Don Beto, George E. Stone. It's an interesting take on a noir because it's an island movie. It's not quite an adventure movie. It is more noir than adventure, but definitely an intriguing title. And I'm always curious about Peter Lorre films I haven't seen. And it says Peter Lorre plays Stephen Daniel, the owner of Dead Man's Island, who uses the off-the-radar colony as a place to keep paroled convicts as slaves. Undercover agent Mark Sheldon gets sent to the island and becomes trapped himself as Daniel's sadistic guards maintain a tight circle around the house and grounds. This one does not have any special features, but it's just a 1080p presentation, high def. So that's Island of Doomed Men. Then we have The Red Menace. This one is from 1949, directed by R.G. Springsteen. The brief synopsis is a couple try to leave the Communist Party after a murder by the group that they were once loyal to, and when a disgruntled ex-soldier gets no help from the Veterans Bureau, he is ripe for the influences of communists who lead him down the party line, but he soon meets up with disaffected party members who attempt to break out. So a couple different takes on what this one's about. It has an audio commentary by film historian Sam Deegan, always welcome, always enjoyable. Hollywood on Trial feature documentary narrated by John Huston. That's from 1976. So a documentary about the, communism, the Red Scare, and then a short film called The Hollywood 10 from 1950. So some very nice features on The Red Menace from 1949. Then we have The Burglar. This one has the most high-profile cast of any of these movies in this set, in that it has Dan Duryea, Jane Mansfield, Martha Vickers, Mickey Shaughnessy. It is directed by the wonderful Paul Wenkos, who Tarantino's a big fan of Wenkos, if I recall. Very interesting director, done tons of movies. Lots of TV movies, Gidget movies, Cocaine, One Man Seduction with Dennis Weaver, which is a great hysterical, drug film. from the 80s, Legend of Lizzie Borden. Interesting director. Anyway, nice noir with Duryea, who I'm a huge fan of. A burglar and his two associates set their sights on a wealthy spiritualist who has inherited a fortune, including a renowned emerald necklace from a Philadelphia financier. So the short of it is that they want to try and steal this guy's stuff, or this spiritualist stuff. And will it be as easy as all that? Is kind of the setup. And the answer is typically in noirs, no, it won't be that easy. And it's not. But it's neat to see James Mansfield in a noir, and I love Duryea. He's one of my favorite actors, of this period and noirs. Just great. So a really solid one. That's, I think, can't remember if this has a release anywhere else. This doesn't have much, but it has an introduction by Martin Scorsese, which is very cool. He's a big fan of this one. So good to have that on there. And then last we have 13 West Street. This is directed by Philip Leacock. Actually, this has a pretty strong cast too. Alan Ladd, Rod Steiger, Dolores Dorn. Adam Rourke is in this. That's cool. For those that don't know him, he was in The Savage Seven, the biker take on Seven Samurai, if I recall. And then he's in Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. That's one of his biggest roles with Peter Fonda. Anyway, I'm a big fan of him, cult actor. Walt Sherrill is attacked and beat down by a group of juvenile delinquents on his way home from work. Walt Sherrill is, of course, played by Alan Ladd. One night, the boys who attacked him are not previously known by the police and therefore hard to track down. As Sherrill starts getting impatient, he begins his own investigation. Meanwhile, Detective Sergeant Kowaleski, that is Rod Steiger, does his best to track down the culprits. So, not quite like Death Wish or anything, but, in that sort of vicinity in terms of taking the law into your own hands with Alan Ladd and Rod Steiger, would be the equivalent of the Vincent Gardenia role in Death Wish. Anyway, another one that's interesting and lesser seen, and I don't think has a Blu-ray previous to this. I could be wrong about that. No features on this one, just the trailer, but that is it for the Noir box set. So I can't believe they're already on number 5 of these box sets. I feel like it was just the other day they were on their like first and second box set. Okay, next up we have, this is the Adventure Collection Volume 2. And this one is pretty cool. I like the first Adventure Collection, but this one maybe has a little bit more appeal to me. It has 5 different titles, and I will go through those now. Nice box, same kind of box setup. 4 cases, 5 movies. So let's start with Angel on the Amazon. This one is from 1948, directed by John H. Auer. Stars George Brent, Vera Ralston, Constance Bennett, Brian Ahern. An expedition exploring the Amazon jungle comes across a jungle goddess who lives among the animals and fears none of them, and apparently has found the secret of eternal youth. So a little bit of a fantastic element to this one. But from 1948. And this one also includes Daughter of the Jungle. So this is the double feature here. And you have actually flip artwork if you'd rather have Daughter of the Jungle as your primary. Angel on the Amazon includes an audio commentary by Philippa Berry, and Daughter of the Jungle by film historian Gary Girani. This is cool. It says 1080p high definition presentation from a 4K scan of the original 35 nitrate negative. Same thing for Daughter of the Jungle. So these look really, really nice. Daughter of the Jungle is from 1949. Lois Hall, James Cardwell, Sheldon Leonard, James Noland. An airplane carrying a pair of police officers escorting gangsters to prison crash lands in the African jungle. They are rescued from an attack by savage natives by a white woman who appears out of nowhere, and it turns out she is the lost heiress who herself crash landed in the jungle years before. So, slightly similar storyline. This is a shorter one, but a nice double feature to start off. So that was Daughter of the Jungle. Then we have Fair Wind in Java. Wait a minute. Yes, here we go. Yeah, this one has Fred McMurray and Vera Ralston and Robert Douglas, Victor McLaglen. And this one, directed by Joseph Kane from 1953, the Dutch East Indies at the end of the 19th century. An adventurous captain of an American merchant vessel is looking for a sunken Dutch vessel containing 10,000 precious diamonds. Unfortunately, he's not the only one. And then there's also the volcano on the nearby island of Krakatau, waiting to explore it in its historical disastrous eruption. So kind of disaster, definitely one of the more adventure-y movies in this whole set. But I like McMurray in this context. I guess I haven't seen a lot of this kind of movie with him. This has an audio commentary by Sam Deegan as well. The back says, a 19th century merchant seaman assisted by a native girl goes in search of a treasure trove of jewels on a remote volcanic island in the Dutch East Indies. Felt like it might be an influence on Indiana Jones, but you never know. So anyway, that is Fair Wind to Java. Then we have Elephant Walk from 1954. And this one stars Elizabeth Taylor, Peter Finch, Dana Andrews, some high-profile stuff. A colonial tea planter, John Wiley, that's Peter Finch, visiting England at the end of World War II, wins and weds a lovely English Rose Ruth, Dame Elizabeth Taylor, and takes her to Elephant Walk, Ceylon, where the local elephants have a grudge against the plantation. Ruth's delight with the tropical plantation and the luxury of her new home is tempered by isolation as the only white woman in the district. Her husband's occasional imperious arrogance, a mutual physical attraction to the plantation manager, Dick Carver, that's Dana Andrews, and hovering ominous menace of hostile elephants. So little animals attack in this with hostile elephants, so I kind of dig that about it. Love triangle-y kind of thing. And a good cast. So that is Elephant Walk, directed by William Dieterle, who did tons of stuff, including The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Portrait of Jenny, Dark City, I'll Be Seeing You. That's a great little Christmas movie sort of thing. Satan Met a Lady, which is an early take on Maltese Falcon. The Turning Point, which was part of one of the other noir sets. That's a really great one that I feel like a lot of people don't know. Anyway, Dieterle did a ton of great movies, and this is an interesting adventure film from him. So that is that one. It has an audio commentary with film historian, screenwriter Gary Girani, and 1080p presentation. And then lastly from this set, we have Safari from 1956, directed by Terrence Young. Another cool cast. This has Victor Mature and Janet Leigh headlining, with John Justin, Roland Culver, Earl Cameron, wealthy eccentric Sir Vincent Brampton, that of course being, I guess that's Roland Culver. And his fiancée Linda hire Ken Duffield, that's Victor Mature, to lead them on a jungle hunt. Duffield is looking for the murderer of his son. He gets the killer and Linda. So I guess that's sort of the thrust of the narrative of this film, ultimately. So yeah, Terrence Young, another big name British director in this case, who did, Bond movies, and did he do some Hammer movies? Maybe not, but a ton of stuff I recognize. But of course, Dr. No is a big one for him, and From Russia with Love, also great, as well as Thunderball. So he did some of the better, more prominent Bond films. Wait Until Dark is a great thriller that he also did. So anyway, Safari, 1956. This one, just 1080p presentation, no extras. But that'll do it for the adventure Collection Volume 2. Okay. So then we have this thing here, which is the Marlon Brando Collection, Film Focus Marlon Brando Volume 1 set. And this one has 6 movies in it. Slightly different box. These Film Focus collections I've shown, I think the Papard and the Jennifer Connelly here before, they're just a little different, slightly thinner maybe, just a little bit of a different design, but they're very nice embossed logos for these. All right, let's go through this. So we have Sayonara from 1957, directed by Joshua Logan. Air Force Major Lloyd Groover, that's Brando, reassigned to a Japanese air base and is confronted with his U.S. racial prejudice against the Japanese people. The issue is compounded because a number of soldiers become romantically involved with Japanese women in defiance of U.S. military policy. Ordinarily, an officer who is by the book, Groover must take a position when a buddy of his, an enlisted man, Joe Kelly, that's Red Buttons in this case, falls in love with the Japanese woman Katsumi, Miyoshi Umeki, and marries her. Groover risks his position by serving as best man at the wedding ceremony. So controversial at the time of this, I guess, or at the time it's taking place. 1957 is when this film comes out. James Garner also here, Martha Scott, Kent Smith, from a bunch of Val Lewton movies. Dennis Hopper in a small part. But this one is a prominent Brando film that from 1957. This has some nice features. Audio commentary by cinema author, critic Matthew Asprey Gear. Audio commentary by film historian Stuart Galbraith IV, including interviews with John Waxman, son of composer Franz Waxman, and Yayoi Winfrey, writer-director of War Brides of Japan 2023. So the music is by Franz Waxman, who's a great composer. Lots of great scores. Isolated score and effects track in DTS HD Master Audio 2.0. So you get a isolated version of that score, which is nice. You don't see isolated score tracks very much anymore. Next up, we have The Fugitive Kind, directed by Sidney Lumet. This one, of course, all these are going to have Marlon Brando, Joanne Woodward, Maureen Stapleton, R.G. Armstrong, a great supporting cast here. Val Xavier, a drifter, that of course, Val Snakeskin Xavier, that of course is Brando. Drifter of obscure origins arrives at a small town and gets a job in a store run by Lady Torrance. Lady Torrance is played by Anne Magnani. Her husband, Jacob M. Torrance, is dying of cancer. Val is pursued by Carol Couture, the enigmatic local tramp of Good Family. That's Joanne Woodward's character. So another from Sidney Lumet. Obviously, we had the Sidney Lumet Volume 1 set come from IMPRINT recently, and very cool stuff, that set, by the way. But yeah, so this is Brando and Lumet together. Very cool movie from 1960. Featured here, 1080 presentation from a 4K digital restoration approved by Sidney Lumet. Audio commentary by critic Adrian Martin. Collaborations directing Brando, an interview with William J. Mann. Celluloid Menagerie, Daniel Creamer and Nat Segaloff discuss Tennessee Williams on film. This is a screenplay by Tennessee Williams based on the play Orpheus Descending by Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams and Mead Roberts on the screenplay. So we have theatrical roots for this, of course. All right. Next up, maybe my favorite film in this whole set, and this has already come out on a Criterion Blu-ray, but that is One-Eyed Jacks, directed by Marlon Brando himself. Originally, Kubrick started on it, but didn't finish, didn't work out. But a really, really strong cast here of Marlon Brando, Carl Malden. Marlon Brando, it's kind of like a Billy the Kid story. He plays Rio. Carl Malden plays Dad Longworth, a great name. Katie Jurado, Ben Johnson, and Slim Pickens in supporting roles. Ben Johnson as a bandit and Slim Pickens as a sheriff's deputy. Both pretty evil, and two of the best performances they ever gave in films. Just great. Timothy Carey shows up, gets his butt kicked, actually. Alicia Cook Jr. As a bank teller, that's a good bit. Anyway, they're running from the law, Brando and Malden's characters, after a bank robbery in Mexico, and basically the Dad Longworth character finds an opportunity to take the stolen gold and leave Rio behind. And years later, Rio escapes from prison where he's been since then, so 5 years later, I think, and hunts down Dad for revenge. Dad is now a respectable sheriff in this California town and has been living in fear of Rio's return. So it's a complicated thing because he's a lawman, so it's not as easy as just killing him. But it is a truly great movie and a little underseen. Audio commentary by Toby Rohn, author of A Million Feet of Film, The Making of One-Eyed Jacks, wrote the book on it. An Authentic Death, Pursuing One-Eyed Jacks documentary, very nice. Hugo Friedhofer Goes West, Scoring One-Eyed Jacks featurette. Surviving Billy the Kid, Mike Siegel on the making of One-Eyed Jacks and promoting One-Eyed Jacks photo gallery. So some nice features here that actually aren't included on the Criterion disc. These are brand new features. 1080p presentation from a remastered 4K scan. Another thing about this movie is it had fallen into the public domain for a long time and was just getting kind of crappy, public domain type DVDs, and so it was nice that it got a nice restoration. Really, really great movie though. So moving on to The Ugly American from 1963, directed by George Edlund. This one stars Brando, of course, and Eiji Okada, Sandra Church, Pat Hingle, Arthur Hill, Jocelyn Brando. An intelligent, articulate scholar, Harrison McWhite, that, of course, being Arthur Hill? No, who plays Harrison McWhite? Anyway, Brando plays Ambassador Harrison Carter McWhite, so it's him. Survives a hostile Senate confirmation hearing at the hands of conservatives to become ambassador to Sarkhan, a Southeast Asian country where civil war threatens a tense peace. Despite his knowledge, once he's there, McWhite sees only a dichotomy between the U.S. and communism. He can't accept that anti-American sentiment might be a longing for self-determination and nationalism. So he breaks from his friend DeYoung, a local opposition leader, ignores a foreman's advice about slowing the building of a road, and tries to muscle ahead. What price must the country and his friends pay for him to get some sense? So a man trying to learn a lesson in another country. Anyway, this is one I had not seen, unfamiliar with it, intriguing idea, and so that's The Ugly American from 1963. 1080 presentation from a 2K scan, audio commentary by film historian Scott Harrison, newsreel from the world premiere in Bangkok, straight from 1963. Those are the features on that one. Then we have Bedtime Story, and Bedtime Story is from 1964, directed by Ralph Levy, co-stars Marlon Brando, obviously, David Niven, Shirley Jones, Marie Windsor shows up. The scintillating capers of two cunning con men who fleeced the sexiest chicks on the Riviera until each decided to become the king of the mountain. So I think this is the basis for Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, maybe? Pretty sure. Benson is a Casanova who tricks women into having sex with him before leaving them. He is content with this game until he meets Jameson, a real operator who poses as an exiled prince, and not only gets women to share his bed, but also to give him money to help fund his supposed counter-revolution. So yeah, a different take on the same kind of characters from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Shirley Jones kind of gets caught in the middle. Definitely one I think a lot of people should see because it is the basis for that, although it's going to be a little harsher in some ways because it's from 1964 versus the 1980s. But that is Bedtime Story. And this one has an audio commentary by film historians Lee Pfeiffer, Tony Latino, and Paul Scrabo. 1080 presentation from a 2K scan. And last we have A Countess from Hong Kong. This directed by Charlie Chaplin from 1967. I believe it was his last feature film. And it stars Brando and Sophia Loren, as well as Tippi Hedren, Chaplin himself, Margaret Rutherford. Kind of a fun supporting cast, actually. A Russian countess stows away in the stateroom of a married U.S. diplomat bound for New York. So kind of screwball-y. I know it's not recognized always as a great last feature for Chaplin, but I think it's intriguing. A, because it is his last feature, and B, because it has Brando and Sophia Loren. In Hong Kong, the ambassador returning to America meets a refugee Russian countess without a passport and decides to hide her in his cabin. 1080 presentation from a 2K scan. Audio commentary by film historians Lee Pfeiffer, Tony Latino, and Paul Scrabo. Audio commentary by Chaplin biographer Jeffrey Vance. Interview with Michael Medwin. A Countess for a Day. Interview with actress Carol Cleveland. These are all brand new. The End of the Gold Rushes. Interview with assistant editor Brian Sinclair. Chaplin's Last Chapter. Interviews with the crew. So you get a sense of what it was like on Chaplin's last film. Vintage promotional film, 1967. So that's made at the time. So that's Countess from Hong Kong to close out the Brando box set. That's volume 1, which would indicate, maybe we'll get a volume 2. Okay, so then we got a few standalone titles here as well to talk about. We will start with Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. This one is headlined by James Coburn, but also features Aldo Ray, Robert Webber, Rose Marie, Severin Darden. A big fan of him. He shows up in supporting. He's a great character actor. Sophisticated conman mounts an intricate plan to rob an airport bank while the Soviet premier is due to arrive. Also has Vic Tayback, Harrison Ford in small roles. So it's kind of fun in that sense. But 1966, directed by Bernard Gerard. And in that pocket of time when James Coburn was just, on fire. In the 60s and early 70s was his time. And he really is very charming in this. And it's a fun heist movie. Eli Koch, a captivating rogue and full-time conman, cleverly seduces an attractive psychologist while in prison to win parole. Once out, he immediately goes to work planning a major bank robbery at the Los Angeles International Airport. The logistics of the heist call for imaginative thinking, but will his scheme really lead him to the loot he's looking for, or will his dreams wind up dead in a dead heat on a merry-go-round? No extras on this one, just 1080p presentation. I can't remember if Kino has put this one out yet or not. I think it's possible. Would have liked a commentary, but nonetheless, fun James Coburn 60s heist movie. Eli Koch. Then we have Assignment K. And this one from 68, directed by the great Val Guest, which is definitely part of the reason I'm curious about it. Val Guest, tons of great movies. The Quatermass Experiment, The Day the Earth Caught Fire, Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas, Quatermass 2, Casino Royale, the original. Lots of good stuff. So this one features Stephen Boyd, and he is the boss of a toy company and is secretly also the chief of a British spy organization. And Scott's cover is destroyed when enemy agents kidnap his girlfriend to force him to reveal the identities of fellow spies. So it also has Leo McKern, Michael Redgrave, Robert Hoffman. Interesting setup. Man as toy company executive is also spy. I'm curious about this one because it's Val Guest. Also, no extras on this, just 1080p presentation. But intriguing, and they almost make it look like a Bond movie or something like that. So that's Assignment K from 1968. And we have King of the Gypsies. This is from 1978, directed by Frank Pearson. And this has a really strong cast, like incredibly strong. In fact, this is sort of a cult film in its own right because of this story and the cast. They have their own language, their own codes of sex, honor, and violence, and their own way of choosing a king. Zarko, leader of the Romanis in New York City, passes his position of leadership onto his unwilling grandson, Dave, leading to infighting between Dave and his father. Zarko is played by Sterling Hayden. Queen Rachel is played by Shelley Winters. Susan Sarandon plays Rose. Judd Hirsch plays Grafo. And Eric Roberts plays Dave. And, of course, we still have Brooke Shields, Annette O'Toole, Annie Potts. Linda Manns is in this. I mean, this is a really, really strong cast and a fascinating movie. Again, I've heard of it but never seen it. The cast alone has me incredibly intrigued. Definitely underseen and undervalued. In the criminal and violent world of modern-day gypsies based in New York City, their king Zarko Stefanowicz passes his leadership to his unwilling grandson, leaving the skipped father resentful. So I guess that's Judd Hirsch. Audio commentary by film historian Daniel Kramer. Gadjo Species interview with editor Paul Hirsch, who worked with De Palma, so always enjoy hearing him talk. Vintage interview with Eric Roberts from 1978. He's very young in this film. Trailers from Hell, Michael Schlesinger, commentary on King of the Gypsies. Dino De Laurentiis presents, and Sven Nykvist shot. So all those things intrigue me and make me want to watch that one ASAP. Next we have Diamond Head. This is from 1962. Directed by Guy Green, starring Charlton Heston, Yvette Mimieux, George Chakiris, Francis Wen, James Darren. And this one is about a rich Hawaiian pineapple grower and U.S. senatorial candidate Richard Howland. Of course, that's got to be Charlton Heston, who tries to control everything and everyone around him, including his headstrong sister Sloane. She is played by Yvette Mimieux. So a tropical island, I guess, family drama. An outspoken, hard-headed man, King Howland, sets out to halt the marriage of his beautiful young sister to Hawaiian boy Paul Kahana, even though Howland is having a secret love affair with the lovely Hawaiian Mai Chen. He loathes the idea of a native boy joining his family. No extras on this, just a 1080p transfer, but I don't think this one's been on Blu-ray before. And then Island in the Stream, which I think has been on Blu-ray before. This is from 1977, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, who director of a lot of great movies, including Planet of the Apes, the original, Patton, Papillon, Boys from Brazil. Definitely a solid director in that sense. An isolated sculptor is visited by his three sons just before the start of World War II. George C. Scott, David Hemmings, Gilbert Roland, Hart Bachner, Susan Tyrrell, Richard Evans, Claire Bloom, Julie Harris, Brad Savage. Oh, Brad Savage, very nice. From Apple Dumpling Gang and Salem's Lot. I used to work with him. So this one, Thomas Hudson is a sculptor whose self-imposed isolation in the Bahamas is ended by two forces, the visits of his son and the outbreak of World War II. 1080p high-definition presentation, audio commentary of film historian Sam Deegan. Yes. Survival Scars, Franklin J. Schaffner as auteur, video essay by film historian Daniel Kramer. For Whom the Camera Shoots, Daniel Kramer and Nat Segaloff discuss Ernest Hemingway on film. So some nice features on that one. Islands in the Stream. That will do it for this round of Imprint titles. Always keep an eye on Via Vision's website. Search Imprint Films. It will take you to the Imprint Films tab at Via Vision's website, so you can keep abreast of what they're doing or follow them on socials to keep up with their latest announcements. These are all region-free discs. They will play in U.S. players. If you're interested, you can check any of these out via Imprint's site, Via Vision's site, or import CDs. Sometimes Diabolic DVD will carry them. Sometimes other websites like Orbit DVD will carry them as well. So some of these may be up your alley and worth importing. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.